All right, let's go ahead and hop to it. We got 2 skills left to go, and this is Survival Wisdom. You are adept at living in the wilderness, foraging for food and building shelter. And with training, you discover the secrets of tracking and hiding your trail. Even if you're untrained, you can still use survival to subsist. Subsist in the wild by foraging for food and building shelter. And I believe subsist was covered under the general skills. But if you need to provide food and shelter, you can use the subsist downtime activity. This typically uses society if you're in a settlement, or survival if you're in the wild. Essentially, it's a downtime activity. You try to provide food and shelter for yourself and possibly others as well, with a standard of living. The GM determines the DC based on the nature of the place where you're trying to subsist. You might need a minimum proficiency rank to subsist in particularly strange environments, like the Feywild. Unlike most downtime activities, you can subsist after 8 hours or less of exploration, but if you do, you take a -5 penalty. If you get a critical success, you either provide a subsistence living for yourself and one additional creature, or you improve your own food and shelter, granting yourself a comfortable living. With success, you find enough food and shelter with basic protection from the elements to provide you a subsistence living. Failure, you're exposed to the elements and don't get enough food, becoming fatigued, which is a very bad side effect, until you attain sufficient food and shelter. And finally, on a critical failure, you attract trouble, eat something you shouldn't, or otherwise worsen your situation. You take a -2 circumstance penalty to checks to subsist for 1 whole week. You don't find any food at all. If you don't have any stored up, you're in danger of starving or dying of thirst if you continue failing. Also worth mentioning that the -2 circumstance penalty is it's not going to stack, I don't think. So it's not like each day that you fail it gets worse, but it still kind of sucks. My understanding is that at low levels or in survival-based campaigns, subsist gets used, but once you have some money coming in and you know you're making it happen as an adventurer, you probably don't need this anymore. Generally, if you have skills, it's better just to work than to subsist. So again, not sure this comes up too often in play, except for like stranded in the wilderness scenarios and things like that. All right, are there item bonuses for survival? You bet there are. Look at that, that's a lot. More such items? Yep, pretty decent amount. Related feats for survival. We'll check this out in a second. These are the untrained actions that you can perform with survival. You may sense direction. This is an exploration action with a secret dice roll from the core rulebook. Using the stars, the position of the sun, traits of the geography or flora, or the behavior of fauna, you can stay oriented in the wild. Typically, you attempt a survival check only once per day, but some environments or changes might necessitate rolling more often. The GM determines the DC and how long this activity takes, usually just a minute or so. More unusual locales or those you're unfamiliar with might require you to have a minimum proficiency rank to sense direction. Without a compass, you take a -2 item penalty to checks to sense direction. On a critical success, you get an excellent sense of where you are. If you are in an environment with cardinal directions, you know them exactly. Success, you gain enough orientation to avoid becoming hopelessly lost. If you are in an environment with cardinal directions, you have a sense of those directions. I wonder then, is there no way to just cheese this like there is in 5e, where Keen Mind just always knows what time of day it is and what direction they're facing? Or is this really like the only way to know? Could you buy a compass? Would a compass work? Is compass going to be messed up by ley lines and things like that? I'm very curious if this skill sees a lot of use. Hey, good morning. Untrained determines the cardinal direction using the sun. Trained, find an overgrown path in a forest. Expert level check would be navigate a hedge maze. Interesting. Master, navigate a Byzantine labyrinth or relatively featureless desert. And legendary would be navigate an ever-changing dream realm. I suppose then that a dungeon would fall under master, because a hedge maze implies that you could still see the sky. So using this skill to orient in a dungeon would be master level difficulty, which I believe is like a DC 30, which is pretty rough. Those are the only two untrained actions you could do. Your trained actions for survival are cover your tracks. This is a concentrate, exploration, movement based action. You cover your tracks, moving up to half your travel speed. You don't need to attempt a survival check to cover your tracks, but anyone tracking you must succeed at a survival check against your survival DC, which is to say your survival modifier if you rolled a 10, if it is higher than the normal DC to track. In some cases, you might cover tracks in an encounter. In this case, cover tracks is a single action and doesn't have the exploration trait. Interesting. I wonder when you would cover your tracks while also in an encounter. Then there is the track skill. This is a concentration, exploration, movement ability. That means you cannot cover your tracks while also tracking someone else, unless you have two different people. You follow tracks moving up to half your travel speed. After a successful check to track, you can continue following the tracks at half your speed without attempting additional checks for up to 1 hour. So you got to check every hour for tracks. In some cases, you might track in an encounter. In this case, track is a single action and doesn't have the exploration trait, but you might need to roll more often because you're in a tense situation. The GM determines how often you must attempt this check. You attempt your survival check when you start tracking. Once every hour, you continue tracking, and any time something significant changes the trail, the GM determines the DCs for such checks depending on the freshness of the trail, the weather, and the type of ground. There is no critical success for tracking. If you succeed, you find the trail or continue to follow the one you're already following. If you fail, you lose the trail, but can try again after spending 1 hour to try and find it. But if you critically fail, you lose the trail, and a cooldown timer of 24 hours applies to you. It doesn't mean that somebody else in the party cannot attempt it. Sample DCs, untrained nub, I believe it's like a 10 or something. Something like that. The path of a large army following a road. Trained, relatively fresh tracks at rampaging bear through the plains. Expert level, I think we're heading into like the 20s at that point. A nimble panther's tracks through a jungle, tracks obscured by rainfall. Master, tracks obscured by winter snow, tracks of a mouse or smaller creature. Tracks left on surfaces that can't hold prints like bare rock. Legendary, old tracks through a windy desert sands, tracks after a major blizzard or hurricane. So hold on, let me get this straight. Are there abilities and class features like the 5e Ranger, or God forbid the A5e Ranger, that just completely trivializes this entire mechanic? Like, do they just say, nah, dog, I track this thing forever? Or is this thing going to actually see use in play? I guess I'll know more the more I play and once I start learning about the different classes and stuff. But I love to see these sorts of mechanics, but like I always worry and I always get a little sad in 5th edition because for every cool mechanic there is some feat or class feature that not just like makes it easier, but just trivializes it, just removes that from play. And I'm curious if Pathfinder 2e has things like that. Does it have feats and features that just say, you know that entire subsystem you learned about? Yeah, fuck that. You don't need to worry about that. Very curious how that plays out. All right, let's go ahead and look at survival feats. There are not too many. That's good because I'm actually home working on some stuff and running some errands in the afternoon, so I think I only have time for this one skill, and then I will try to finish the last skill when I get back, which, will be sometime this afternoon. All right, the first skill is Experienced Tracker. All right, this is a level 1 general skill feat for someone trained in survival from the core rulebook. Tracking is second nature to you, and when necessary, you could follow a trail without pause. You could track while moving at full speed, but you get a -5 penalty to your survival check. If you're a master in survival, you don't take the -5 penalty. If you're legendary in survival, you no longer need to roll a new survival check every hour when tracking, though you still need to roll whenever there are significant changes in the trail, like a river or a river of lava, or, rivers in general. It's a good one. A herd of antelope, ran by and messed up the track. You get the idea. All right, Forager. This is a level 1 general skill feat for survival from the core rulebook. while using survival to subsist. If you roll any result worse than a success, you get a success. That's nice to always succeed. On a success, you can provide sustenance living for yourself and 4 additional creatures. And on a crit, you can take care of twice as many creatures. Each time your proficiency rank in survival increases, double the number of additional creatures you can take care of to 8 if you're expert, 16 if you're master, or 32 if you're legendary. That would mean a legendary critical success would be 64 additional people that you found food for. I don't even know. What did you find a fucking Aldi's? Like, how did you? Whatever. That's fine. You can you could choose to care for you fucking Jesus Christ. You found 1 fish and you just divided it up for 64 other people. I don't know. It's legendary skill. You don't get to ask questions. You could choose to care for half the number of additional creatures and provide a comfortable living instead of subsistent living. So I guess a legendary critical success, you find a treehouse capable of sheltering 32 people and yourself. That's incredible. Uh, yeah, yeah. The legendary sneak feature kind of does. Okay, well here's the thing. Here's the thing, Dom. If you're level 15 in a game that goes 1 to 20, I'm okay with you starting to break features because you spent 75% of your career using the rules, and then you sacrificed a bunch of abilities to be able to break the rules. I'm tired of shit in 5e where you take 1 feat and you never worry about that rule again, or you take 1 spell and that entire game system is completely removed from the game. That's what I don't like. All right, multiple smaller creatures or creatures with significantly smaller appetites than a human are counted as a single creature for this feat, and larger creatures with those significantly greater appetites each count as multiple creatures because large creatures should always be punished in every game system. The GM determines how much a non-human creature needs to eat. All right. Then we got Survey Wildlife. This is how you get wildlife's opinion about what's going on in the woods, that sort of thing. So this is a level 1 general skill feat for survival from the core rulebook. Let's see. You can study details in the wilderness to determine the presence of nearby creatures. You can spend 10 minutes assessing the area around you to find out what creatures are nearby based on nest, scat, and marks on vegetation. Attempt a survival check against a DC determined by the GM based on how obvious the signs are. On a success, you can attempt a recall knowledge check with a -2 penalty to learn more about the creature just from these signs. If you're a master in survival, there is no penalty. Okay. I mean, honestly, in 5e, that seems like something that's sort of just built into survival if a player thinks to ask about it. I would imagine in Pathfinder, though, trying to stay with the more strict rules, I would be less inclined to allow somebody to do this. If I did, I would probably have a pretty stern penalty or a much higher DC if they tried to do it without the Survey Wildlife feat. Urban Dragon Dice. I don't know if the video keeps. I mean, if the video keeps corrupting, I'm watching my Streamlabs. It doesn't seem to be throwing up any errors, so I'm not sure what's going on. I'm just gonna power through though. All right. Let's see. Next up is Oh, we got kicked out of our window. Hold on. All right. The next feat is, let's see, survival feats, all of the animal. Okay. This is a level 1 uncommon general skill feat from the Broken Tusk Moon. It is for survival. Because it's uncommon, it's likely tied specifically to the Quest for the Frozen Flame adventure path. You know how to make the best and most efficient use of hunted animal's carcass. Choose a large or larger corpse of an animal that died within the past day. While using, while using survival to subsist near the carcass, you always receive enough food for yourself and 1 additional medium creature, using up the meat from the carcass to do so. Since you're using all of the animal, others can't use the carcass meat for any other purpose, including their own use of all the animal. Okay. It kind of feels like 5e Lizard Folk a little bit, but not as strong. All right, what else we got? Experience tracker, we already did. Forager, we already did. Survey wildlife. Terrain expertise. Hey, Boudin's got this ability. Terrain expertise is a level 1 general skill feat in survival from the core rulebook. Your experience in navigating a certain type of terrain makes you supremely confident while doing so. You get a +1 circumstance bonus to survival checks in one of the following types of terrain chosen when you select this feat: aquatic, arctic, desert, forest, mountain, plains, sky, swamp, or underground. Special, you can select this feat more than once, choosing a different type of terrain each time. I'll be honest. I don't think this is all that great of a feat because it only ever gives a +1. It doesn't scale with level, and it's restricted to just your terrain. And I feel like it would be appropriate for something this specific and weak to like chain into something else. I do understand that terrain expertise is commonly given as part of a background, but I feel like it could be much better. All right, next up we've got predict weather. All right. Predict weather is a level 2. Damn, being a weatherman, you gotta be pretty damn experienced. It is a level 2 uncommon general secret skill feat for survival from Kingmaker, which is probably why it's uncommon. By observing often subtle indicators in the environment, you may try to predict the day's weather. Not the day ahead, just the day's weather. Spend 10 minutes outdoors, then attempt a DC 20 survival check. This check is reduced to DC 15 if you have a commanding view of the region, but increases to 30 if conditions are poor, such as attempting to predict the weather with impaired visibility. Once you make an attempt to predict the weather, there's a 24-hour cooldown, so you better set an alarm so you can wake up in the morning and predict the weather for the next day. On a critical success, you accurately predict the day's precipitation, temperature, and wind. You learn if a weather event will occur in the region within the next 24 hours, and if so, what the event is and approximately when it will occur. You gain a +2 circumstance bonus to survival checks made to predict this weather event. On a success, you accurately predict the day's precipitation, temperature, and wind. You learn if a weather event will occur in the region in the next 24 hours, but not what that event will be or when it will take place. Some shit's going down today. When? I don't know. What? We'll find out. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to survival checks made to prepare for this weather event. And on a critical failure, you come to a dramatically wrong conclusion, like weathermen did when I was a child before robots and satellites did all the work. The GM provides information to you as though you had received a critical success, including the specifics of a weather event that will not occur that day, making you look like a total buffoon. Hard to believe. Hard to believe that something I give 5th edition druids as part of the bullshit druidcraft cantrip just is so it's so hard to do. I mean, it's okay, I guess, but man, there are not a lot of. I can't imagine there's a lot of weathermen in Golarion. It must be a very esteemed job. A level 2 feat called Wilderness Spotter. All right, this is a level 2 uncommon general skill feat from the Fall of Plaguestone. That's probably why it's uncommon. You have to be an expert in survival. Select one type of terrain from the following list: aquatic, arctic, desert, forest, mountains, plains, sky, swamp, or underground. You could use survival in place of perception to roll initiative when in the selected terrain in a natural location, not a structure, even if you weren't tracking or otherwise using survival before the encounter. You can also use survival instead of perception to notice traps in natural locations in the chosen terrain. Well, that's actually pretty good. If you find a snare this way, you can also use survival instead of thievery to disable the device. Now, see, Boudin, if you're listening, that's a good situational environmental feat. We got to bully our DM until he lets you take that. That's the good shit right there. You can select this feat more than once. Each time you select it, the feat applies to a new type of terrain. What if you allowed it as, instead of saying uncommon, you just add that they all have to have the first terrain specialization, and then they can get Wilderness Spotter. I don't know. I love the feats that let you do other skill things with the feat. All right, let's look at Folk Dowsing. Oh yeah, anytime you see a super weak one, they are either used to unlock a strong one later on, or they are a part of a starting background. Also, keep in mind that there's a ton of feats that are like, who the fuck would take this? Rogues would take it. Rogues get so many skill feats that they start to run out of ideas for what skill feats to take. I did a build, a level 10 rogue build. I had so many skill feats I didn't even know what to do with them. And you can't use skill feats to take anything but take skill feats. You can't even swap them out for general or anything like that. So I was like dying trying to figure out what to do with all these skill feats. So some of them, you're like, I would never take that. But if you're a rogue and you're sitting on a huge pile of skill feats, you might take some of these. Folk dowsing is a level 3 uncommon general skill feat for survival from the Dark Archives Edgelord's book. You could find what you're looking for using a dowsing rod or pendulum. If you search while wielding a dowsing rod or pendulum, in addition to the normal checks for searching, the GM rolls a secret survival check for you to detect the largest source of water, oil, or other natural non-bodily fluid in the area. Non-bodily? Shucks. Even if the liquid is concealed from you, for example. If it stems from an underground spring or is piped through a wall, this technique points you in the right direction. Oh. That's pretty cool. Okay. The GM determines the DC, which is usually the trained simple DC, with a hard or very hard adjustment if the source of water is small. Would you be able to look for lava? I'm just saying, I'd like to be able to look for lava. If you're an expert in survival, the GM also makes a survival check for you to detect sizable deposits of metal, minerals, or graves. Okay, that's dope. The DC is usually the expert simple DC with DC adjustments for smaller deposits. I think that's a pretty cool skill. I think that's pretty fun. Let's see. That's not natural. This is a level 4 feat that unlocks a reaction called That's Not Natural. It's a rare general skill for experts in survival who are playing in the Kingmaker campaign. Your mastery at surviving in the wild has given you a sort of sixth sense when it comes to noticing creatures that aren't part of the natural order. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to all initiative checks made at the start of a battle in which at least one of your enemies is an aberration, a fae, a mutant, or an undead, or if one of your enemies is from a plane other than the prime material, as long as the battle takes place in a wilderness region. In wilderness regions, you also increase your perception DC by 1 against these types of creatures for the purposes of resolving their stealth checks. If you're a master in survival, this circumstance bonus increases to +2. If you know the Commune with Nature ritual, you can use survival as a primary or secondary check to resolve that ritual. If you do so, you will gain a +2 circumstance bonus. I mean, that seems pretty good all around. Okay. I get the feeling that, like, Kingmaker got a lot of exploration time. Like a lot of exploration time. Alright, Environmental Grace is a level 7 general skill feat for Masters of Survival. You must have a deity who is into cold, fire, nature, or traveling. This is from Gods and Magic. You rapidly adapt to the environments through a combination of skill, meditation, and divine grace. After spending an hour in an environment of severe cold or colder, you're protected from the effects of severe cold until you leave that environment. After spending an hour in an environment of severe heat or hotter, you're protected from the effects of severe heat until you leave that environment. Okay. I imagine that these environmental effects are pretty bad, and you can't just get rid of them by buying the appropriate clothing or drinking hot or cold drinks or some other bullshit. Otherwise, level 7 skill feat feels like a big investment there. I guess we'll find out. Next up, we got Planar Survival. For when you decide to run Planescape using Pathfinder 2e. Yeah. Alright. Planar Survival is a level 7 general skill feat for Masters of Survival from the core rulebook. You could subsist using survival on different planes, even those without resources or natural phenomenon you normally need. For instance, you could forage for food even if the plane lacks food that could normally sustain you. A success on your check to subsist can also reduce the damage dealt by the plane at the GM's discretion. I would probably discreetly say yes, because you spent a level 7 feat on something that might never happen. Alright. Interesting. Next up is Legendary Guide. Legendary Guide is a level 15, so you know it's good. This is a level 15 general skill feat for Legends of Survival from the Advanced Player's Guide. You know the wilderness so well that you can help your party travel through it with ease. When you are setting the path for your party through the wilderness terrain, your party gets a plus 10-foot circumstance bonus to its speed. For the purpose of calculating the party's travel speed, your party's travel speed doesn't decrease in difficult terrain, and greater difficult terrain halves your party's travel speed instead of reducing it to a third. This doesn't increase your party's speed during an encounter or allow your party to ignore difficult terrain during an encounter. Welp, if you are with a strict DM and they are rolling random encounters every hour, and this is speeding up your overland travel, you are effectively having less encounters and therefore speeding up gameplay and your odds of survival. It seems on paper to be a little lame, but I believe depending on how strict your GM is with overland travel, it could be a pretty good. I will point out that a 5th edition Ranger gets basically everything here times 10 just for picking Ranger, so it's kind of wild. I'm curious what the Ranger class actually brings to the table in Pathfinder 2. Legendary Survivalist is a level 15 general skill feat for survival from the core rulebook. It don't do much, so let's hear what it does. You can survive indefinitely without food or water, and can endure severe, extreme, and incredible cold and heat without taking damage from doing so, period. Okay. I mean, I'm at level 15. I don't know if I don't really know if like not needing food is going to be a big enough brag to take up my level 15 feat, TBH. Not when I can mean mug someone and kill them. But that's good for you, Legendary Survivalist. You don't need any food. Yeah, level 15. Woof. Wow, survival's really bad. Damn. How do you look around, survival? Look at all your friends. Intimidation kills people by looking at them too mean. What do you got, brother? You got nothing. You got nothing. Stealth level 15. They're just always stealth. Even if you're looking right at them, they're always stealth. What do you got? Don't need food. Terrible. Terrible. Oh my god. I think like the Master of Acrobatics can actually phase through solid objects. Survival. I don't need food. Whew, disappointing. All right, we've got one more skill to go. We're going to take care of that later this afternoon. It is a thievery, and we will dig into thievery and finish up our skills stuff. After skills, we're going to jump into afflictions and conditions, and after that, we will see where we go. I'm feeling more and more comfortable with the Pathfinder 2nd Edition rule set. All right, fine. Okay, hold on. All right, Dom's trying to step in. He's always so nice. Let's see, extreme environments. Okay, maybe the extreme environments will make it seem that survival is actually worth it. Some adventures lead to fantastic reaches of the world or the multiverse that are seldom tread by mortals. In an aerial world might include windy realms and floating islands. Glaciers might have massive sheets of dense ice, constantly moving under their own immense weight. Glaciers are frozen wastelands riddled with columns of jagged ice and snow-covered crevasses. Volcanic, hellish landscapes of molten lava, burning ash, and scorching temperatures pose immediate danger. Undersea, a subset of aquatic environments. Undersea environments are those areas submerged beneath the waves. Underground, most worlds have deep natural caverns, while others have extensive winding tunnels and expansive realms below the surface. Alright, give me extreme heat. Extreme heat. Favored terrain. Man, climate acclimation. Alright, extreme. Extreme increases, extreme curse, extreme environments. We already read that. Extreme retraining. Climbing kit to the extreme, extreme good and evil. Push and pull. Common environments? Maybe? Forest, mountains, plains, urban. Man, I'm not seeing it, Dom. Inured to heat. Alright, here we go. Temperature! From the core rulebook, page 517. Often, temperature doesn't impose enough of a mechanical effect to worry about beyond describing the clothing the characters need to wear to be comfortable. Particularly hot and cold weather can make creatures fatigued more quickly during overland travel and can cause damage if harsh enough, as shown on table 1013. Appropriate cold weather gear, such as the winter clothing, can negate the damage from severe cold or reduce the damage from extreme cold to that of particularly severe cold. Okay. Incredible cold is really cold. -80 Fahrenheit, -62 Celsius. In 2 hours in that environment, you will get fatigued. You take moderate cold every minute. Oh, damn. Extreme cold is -79 Fahrenheit to -21 Fahrenheit, -61 Celsius to -29 Celsius. You will get fatigued in 4 hours. Minor cold every 10 minutes. What does minor mean? It's like 1 damage, 5 damage. Severe cold is -20 Fahrenheit to 12 Fahrenheit. Hey, wait a minute, that doesn't feel very cold. -28 degrees Celsius to -11 Celsius. 4 hours to get fatigued. Minor cold every hour. Mild cold, 4 hours to get fatigued, no damage. Normal temperature, mild heat. Severe heat, you take fire damage every every hour. And 4 hours will get you fatigued. Extreme heat, 4 hours will get you fatigued. Minor fire every 10 minutes. This is Arizona in the summer, 115 degrees Fahrenheit to 139. Incredible heat. This would be like volcano, heart of a volcano, and like plane of fire. 140 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer. 2 hours you'll get fatigued. Moderate fire every minute. Okay. If the GM is strict about this stuff, the extreme ones, sure, I get it. But it sounds like you could just wear clothing to negate severe. But I guess the extreme would be an issue, right? The clothing can reduce the damage from extreme cold to that of severe. So you would be taking damage every hour, and you would have to worry about getting fatigued. Could you imagine Rime of the Frost Maiden running Pathfinder 2E? Oh, baby. Oh, baby, that would be rough. Look up what fatigue does. I know it's real bad. But just so that we can kind of lift up the survival skill after I said all those mean things about it, we will look what fatigue does. Fatigue is a status effects condition. There we go. Core rulebook page 517. Precipitation causes discomfort and fatigue. Anything heavier than drizzle or light snowfall reduces the time it takes for characters to become fatigued from overland travel. Wait a minute. Why are you telling me this? All right, hold on. Fatigue. All right. We want fatigue as covered under conditions. There we go. All right. Conditions of fatigue, core rulebook 620. You're tired and can't summon much energy. -1 status penalty to your armor class and your saving throws. You can't use exploration activities performed while traveling, such as those listed here. And you can recover from fatigue after full night's rest. So, -1 to AC and saving throws in a game where everything can be a critical hit, including a fireball, is pretty bad. And recovering, and then not being able to contribute to exploration actions means that you're kind of just a liability. You're taking up space. So, like, I get it. Fatigue is real bad. So maybe survival is the unsung hero. It's the support caster of all of the skills. There, I said it. But I got to go work on some other stuff. We will meet up tonight to do Thievery. There is no Odyssey Prime game tonight. So other than that quick skill stream, that's all we got going on tonight. We will be playing some Pathfinder Abomination Vaults tomorrow night. So join us for that if you're interested. And I'll see you next time.